Hello and welcome to Verity, where truth and conversation converge. I'm your host, Kerwin D. Sims, and joining me in the conversation today is Dr. E. Sabrina Dorsey. She's the founder and executive director of Abundant Living Foundation, Inc., and also John Yeager. He was diagnosed with prediabetes. He's a member of the Rotary Club of North Atlanta, the Lions Club, and he's working to coordinate both organizations to fight diabetes. I want to say good afternoon to both of my guests.
Good afternoon.
And you can probably tell we're going to be talking about diabetes, but more specifically prediabetes. And Dr. Dorsey, some people seem to believe what do we want to start with this conversation when we're talking about pre-diabetes? Because there's some myths associated with it. In other words, if you're diagnosed with pre-diabetes, at some point you'll get full-blown diabetes. So what do we want to start with this conversation?
Well, I think the audience should know that if you are diagnosed with prediabetes, it does not mean that you will progress to full-blown diabetes. There are things that you can do before that happens, such as lose weight between 5 and 10% of your current weight, increase your exercise, and try to change your eating plan for the long term. Those are some of the things that you can do.
And when you say drop weight, and is that typically one of the things associated with prediabetes? There's obesity or just overweight, because there's differences there.
Well, both overweight and obesity. They have been associated with prediabetes to a large extent. And you'll have some, there's plenty of data that support that.
Okay. And John, when did you find out, and what was your situation at the time that you found out that you were pre-diabetic?
Well, I was, I guess about a year and a half ago, I was at a regular physical, and I took blood and I found out the results, and the doctor said, well, your HbA1c is up to 5.7. That's just one notch above normal. And he said, that means you're pre-diabetic. He said, you're not ready for medication yet. And I thought, I'm not ready for medication at all. So what can I do about it? And so that was in the fall, about a year and a half ago. And since then I went on a diet and lost about 40 pounds.
And so what was your diet prior to that? I mean, were you like, just all over the Oreos and all over the Doritos?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have one of the worst sweet tooths. I would eat anything candy all day long, or soft drinks with sugar in them, and just didn't pay any attention to it. I knew I'd been eating bad. I really wasn't surprised that my blood sugar was elevated. But I've since changed my habits, and my sweet tooth seems fine without getting satisfied.
And what about symptoms? I mean, before you went to the doctor and actually got the diagnosis, was there were you feeling lightheaded? Were you having aches, pains, headaches, or anything like that that may have been an indicator, blurry vision or anything? Or is this a routine checkup?
It's hard to say. The symptoms of diabetes are kind of subtle, and I might have had some symptoms, like, might have had frequent urination or something like that, but nothing that was really definitive. And I still have a tendency to carb crash a little bit. If I eat a lot of carbs, then I'll get sleepy, which can be one symptom. But no, I was really just at the very start of hyperglycemia and the road to diabetes, so I wasn't too far along.
Yeah, okay. And Dr. Dorsey, for someone who's diagnosed with pre-diabetes, what are the steps that you would recommend for them to take? I know you mentioned exercise, and I know you mentioned change your eating habits, but specifically in terms of eating habits, what are some of the things that they need to cut out versus some of the things that perhaps they need to change or add?
Well, there are several different eating plans that a person can undertake, and it's personal. It would depend on what the person believes that they can stick with. That's the most important thing. To make a change, small changes at a time, but to be able to maintain those changes. And there are several diets or eating plans, such as the modified American diet. That would be give you the least change in your glucose or your hemoglobin A1C. If you went to a
But before you go to
unprocessed,
that next one, explain a little bit what that is, if you don't mind.
the modified
Yes.
American,
Yes.
as opposed to the standard American, that would mean that you cut out fast foods, fried foods, a lot of simple starches like potatoes and bread and rice and pasta, and eat more vegetables and fruit. And also you would be able to have protein, your fish and your chicken and a little beef, but I would stay away from the beef, not a lot, maybe once or twice a week.
Now,
So that would be the modified.
Are you talking about cutting it out completely or reducing?
Reducing would be fine, once or twice a week.
Okay.
It depends on what the person can handle at the time. They may want to make small changes, maybe have 5 days of low protein and low carbs, and then eat as they would on another day, on the other 2 days of the week. But you'd have to make those changes, especially the fast food, the fried French fries, cheeseburgers, all the foods that are loaded with calories, but decreased in nutrients. You want to switch that. You want to eat a diet that is nutrient dense and low in calories. And that's where the vegetables and the fruit come in.
And so you mentioned the modified American diet and American diet, and was there another one or?
There are several.
Oh, several. Okay.
The unprocessed plant-based would be your best option to see a change. You would be able to eat as much as you like and be satisfied, and you lose weight without even an effort. Okay, so because the vegetables and fruit and your less starchy, like sweet potatoes or squash, things like that, your less starchy vegetables are low in calories, but they're high in nutrients. And just eating that type of diet would really take the weight off. I've done it, so I know that that works. And there's also, you want to reduce the amount of oil that you use in your food. It is possible to cook vegetables without oil. You can use vegetable broth or just plain water. Vegetable broth gives it a little more flavor. You saute it, watch it, and it really works.
Oh, okay. And for you, John, was exercise a part of your regimen to get from being a pre-diabetic to back to a normal state, or?
Yes, it was. I have a pet, which I walk anyway, but I do some indoor swimming, and I try to swim a mile or two every week. And that's not a huge amount as far as swimmers go, but it was good aerobic exercise. And yeah, in order to be successful, to lose weight and reduce your blood sugar, exercise is an important aspect.
So how tough was it to stay, once you made that decision, was it tough, or how tough was it for you?
Well, I don't consider myself particularly disciplined, and the method I chose it's called time-restricted eating. It's really simple. All you do is you pick a 6 to 8 hour window during the day to eat your food in. You can have whatever you want. But after that, or before that window, you don't eat anything. And what happens is it starts to, dissolve the fat and use the fat for energy, and you lose weight fairly quickly. I was able to do that. There are other strategies that people have to not eat at all, maybe 2 or 3 days a week, and that was, you know, having a social life with family and whatever. That's pretty hard, pretty disruptive. So
Right at it then.
actually, no, it wasn't. It wasn't hard. Surprisingly easy to do the regimen.
Okay. And so for example, when did you start eating? When did you start that 6 to 8 hour window?
I started it around December of that same year, and by May I'd lost the 40 pounds, and I've been
Would you
able to.
consider yourself obese prior to that, or what would you consider your
I
status?
was borderline. My BMI was like 29 at the worst, so I probably shed about 20% of my weight, a little bit more than that, and it had some other really great benefits too, which I'd be remiss to overlook. One is that I used to be on blood pressure meds for, I don't know, 20 years and didn't need them anymore. Blood pressure was really low. And my pulse, my resting rate was 50s, sometimes 40s. And I think exercise had a bit to do with that. And I used to snore, but after I lost the weight, snore no more. So those are all sort of unintended consequences of the slow weight loss thing. Plus, I brought my blood sugar back into normal.
Wow.
Well, so it wasn't that hard. It's a lot easier to watch what you don't eat than to figure out how you're going to inject yourself with insulin and, you know, plan your diet that way.
So did you say you didn't really change what you ate, but you changed the hours when you ate?
Well, I did a little bit of both. And I was a real cracker and carb nut. And, you know, that the body turns that right into sugar. Starchy stuff turns right into sugar. So I sort of pushed towards vegetables. My wife's a vegan. My kids are vegetarians, so I don't have an excuse, right? So I pushed towards vegetables and protein. And I don't think I really got on a keto diet, but there were some times when I was probably pretty close. But if you don't eat carbs, the weight will come off pretty quickly, I found.
Okay. And Dr. Dorsey, what about children? Because we see, and we've heard studies of more and more children being diagnosed as obese. What about diabetes as well? Is that kind of a parallel? Are you seeing numbers increase with the
Yes.
youth as far as that is concerned as well?
Yes, there's been a great increase in obesity, overweight, and diabetes in children. And not only diabetes, but also high blood pressure in a 14-year-old. And it has a lot to do with diet, a lot to do with diet. So we would suggest that parents, you know, cut out the sweet drinks like sodas and juices. They're loaded with sugar, you know, the candies and cakes and ice cream. Occasionally that's fine, but not on a regular basis. And also, again, the fast foods, that's a huge culprit in this arena with obesity and diabetes.
Now, before we go, we're just about out of time, but how can the audience find out more about some of these different diets that you mentioned, that maybe if they wanted to find more about them and probably even incorporate that into their own regimen, how can they find out more about them?
Well, if they've got it, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Please go.
Well,
Go ahead, Jim.
You can use Google and look up things like intermittent fasting or time restricted eating. And there's a ton of information available on it. There are a lot of good books. One's called Delay, Don't Deny. That's really easy to read and understandable. And a lot of information in the public domain. I compiled a little bibliography. I'll be happy to share it with anybody that wants it, of resources.
Okay. And
for, in addition to that, anyone that's interested in particular diets with a shopping list, recipes, meal plan, and to be able to monitor their weight, their blood pressure, they can contact me at ES Health Coach at gmail.com.
One more time.
ES Dorsey
And
at
that's
gmail.
spelled DORCE.
Yes, Health Coach at gmail.com.
Okay. And
Yes.
John, what's your contact email so people, if they want to get that bibliography you mentioned?
Sure. It's John Yeager Rotary. And note the spelling of John and Yeager, Jon for John and Yeager, Yaeger, Rotary at gmail.com. And I'll be happy to send you the resources I have.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the time we have for this segment of Verity. I want to thank once again Dr. E. Sabrina Dorsey, founder and executive director, Abundant Living Foundation, and John Yeager, who is a member of the Rotary Club of North Atlanta and the Lions Club. I want to thank you both for joining me in the conversation on Verity today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
And
you.
to the audience, do not forget to go to our homepage at leanin.live to register for a free account where you'll get programming updates as well as live stream alerts. And stay tuned for more great conversation. We're going to be having, if you use any type of mobile phone, tablet, computer, Chastity Wright, business development at Wright Tech Solutions is going to be talking cybersecurity. It's not just for corporations. It's for people just like you and me who use these electronic devices. So make sure you join me next time. I'm your host, Kerwin D. Sims. Thank you for joining me in Verity, where truth and conversation converge. See you next time.
Oh, he went off.
Okay, there it is. There you go. Okay.